Welcome back to TPS. Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones is one of the most polarizing figures in professional sports. On the one hand, he made a series of bold moves to help the Cowboys win 3 Super Bowls during the 90s. But the Cowboys have been mired in complete mediocrity ever since they last won the Super Bowl in the 1995 season. And a lot of this has to fall on Jones. He's given himself too much power, and it's led to plenty of awful personnel decisions that have set the Cowboys back. Maybe Jones and the Cowboys will celebrate a 6th and possibly a 7th Super Bowl down the road, but that's all for another day. In the midst of another drama-filled roller coaster season, it's a good time to look back on the 11 worst moves the Cowboys have made under Jerry Jones.
At TPS, we post videos every single day, so don't forget to click the subscribe button to subscribe. Then click the notification bell to be notified when we post a new video.
Number 11, signing Brandon Carr. The Cowboys were desperate for help at cornerback, so they threw a 5-year deal worth $50.1 million at Brandon Carr in the 2012 free agency. Carr had spent his first 4 seasons with the Kansas City Chiefs. Carr was at least an upgrade over the other cornerbacks in Big D, but this guy was not a Pro Bowl talent. The Cowboys spent way too much money for a guy who was a grade B corner at best. Carr finished out the entirety of his contract in Dallas, but he never fully lived up to it. The Cowboys could have done so much better with that $50.1 million, considering all the holes on the roster at the time. Number 10, drafting Taco Charlton. The 6'6", 270-pound defensive end out of Michigan was drafted 28th overall by the Cowboys in 2017. He was joining a front 7 that consisted of DeMarcus Lawrence and Jalen Smith, and expectations were high for Charlton and Big D. But Charlton struggled big time in Rod Marinelli's defense, recording a total of just 4 sacks over his rookie and sophomore seasons. The Cowboys quickly gave up on Charlton and released him early in the 2019 season, and he went on to sign with the Miami Dolphins. 2 picks later, the Pittsburgh Steelers drafted pass rushing stud TJ Watt, and names like Juju Smith-Schuster, Dalvin Cook, Marcus Williams, and Alvin Kamara are also among the many stars that the Cowboys could have taken over Charlton. Certainly not Jones's best day at the draft table. Number 9, signing Greg Hardy. After earning a Pro Bowl selection with the Carolina Panthers in 2013, Greg Hardy essentially threw away a promising career with heinous off-the-field behavior. He was arrested after allegedly attacking his ex-girlfriend, and he received an 18-month probation sentence. Hardy played 1 game for the Panthers in 2014 before he was placed on the commissioner's exempt list. Carolina chose not to keep Hardy, so the Cowboys went and signed him to a 1-year deal in free agency. Hardy had 6 sacks in 12 games for the Cowboys, but that wasn't the main story here. Rather, the main story was the fact that Jones showed zero morals and a total disregard for common sense. It was a shameful move on his end, once again, showing that winning matters more than doing the right thing. Number 8, trading up for Morris Claiborne. Remember what we said about the Cowboys being desperate for a cornerback in 2012? Well, signing Brandon Carr to a very generous contract wasn't enough for Jones. The Cowboys swung a deal with the St. Louis Rams to move up to the number 6 spot in the 2012 draft. They used the pick on LSU cornerback Morris Claiborne, while the Rams received the number 14 and number 45 selections from Dallas. But the 2011 unanimous All-American and Jim Thorpe Award winner was unable to take his play to another level with the Cowboys. Claiborne's time in Dallas was marred by injuries and inconsistent play, though the numerous coaching changes on the defensive side of the ball obviously didn't help matters either. Claiborne wasn't terrible by any means, but he simply didn't live up to the hype as a number 6 pick, and the Cowboys never got great value after surrendering 2 early round picks to land him. Number 7, trading for Joey Galloway. The Cowboys were desperate for help at wide receiver following Michael Irvin's retirement after he suffered a career-ending injury. They sent their 2000 and 2001 first-round picks to the Seattle Seahawks for Joey Galloway, who had a trio of 1,000-yard seasons in the Pacific Northwest. But a gruesome ACL tear forced Galloway to miss all but 1 game in 2000. He would only play 3 more seasons with the Cowboys, finishing with a total of 151 receptions for 2,341 yards and 12 touchdowns. Seattle used those picks on future MVP and Pro Bowl running back Sean Alexander and wide receiver Corinne Robinson, who posted a 1,000-yard season for the Seahawks in 2002. But if Dallas hadn't have made the next mistake here on our list, they probably would have stayed away from Galloway in the first place. Number 6, passing on Randy Moss. The Minnesota Vikings drafted Moss with the 21st pick in 1998. 20 players went before the man who has to be considered the second-best wide receiver of all time, right behind Jerry Rice. Jim Garrett, the father of Cowboys head coach Jason Garrett, served as a scout for America's team at the time. The eldest Garrett was quoted as saying the following according to ESPN. "Man, this is not the Boy Scouts we're dealing with. This is pro football. Draft him." Moss also said that he believed the Cowboys were going to draft him, having met with cornerback Deion Sanders before the big day. At any rate, the Cowboys stayed away from Moss and selected North Carolina defensive end Greg Ellis with the number 8 pick. Well, the Cowboys would learn to regret passing on Moss quickly. In the 1998 Thanksgiving game against Minnesota, Dallas was torched by the rookie wideout, who finished with 3 catches for 163 yards and a trio of touchdowns. The Cowboys could have paired Moss with another Pro Bowler and Hall of Fame wideout in Michael Irvin, though he suffered a career-ending injury in 1999. Dallas's dynasty was long gone by the time they had passed on Moss. If he was a Cowboy, maybe they could have revived it. Number 5, the way he fired Tom Landry. Not only is he the greatest head coach in the history of the Dallas Cowboys, but Landry certainly belongs in the NFL's Mount Rushmore of head coaches. The Dallas sports icon was head coach of the Cowboys from their first season in 1960 all the way up until 1989. He led them to a pair of Super Bowl championships while recording a remarkable .607 career winning percentage. But after Jones bought the team in 1989, he showed total disrespect towards Landry. Jones forced GM Tex Schramm to fire the legendary head coach, even though Schramm was also on his way out the door. Jones just couldn't do it himself. Landry was obviously devastated by the move, and the Cowboys faithful shared their support and gratitude. Jones would win 2 Super Bowls with the new head coach Jimmy Johnson, but even the Dallas owner has admitted that he regrets the way he fired Landry. He could have handled it better, rather than simply embarrass and humiliate Landry and Schramm. Number 4, releasing DEMARCUS WARE. The perennial Pro Bowler was the heart and soul of the Dallas Cowboys defense for 9 years, from 2005 to 13. Ware is the franchise leader in sacks with 117. He was one of the few game changers Dallas had on defense during that span. Ware recorded double-digit sacks every year for the Cowboys from 2006 to 12, but he recorded just 6 in 13 games during the 2013 season. Jones and the front office believed that Ware had virtually nothing left to give entering his age 32 season, so they cut him loose in the 2014 offseason. John Elway and the Denver Broncos were thrilled by this transaction, and they signed Ware to a 3-year, $30 million pact. Ware showed he was far from finished by logging 10 sacks in 2014. 1 year later, he and Von Miller guided the Broncos to a Super Bowl 50 championship. Ware finished with 21.5 sacks and 3 forced fumbles during his 3 seasons with the Broncos. So much for Ware being done, eh, Jarrett? Probably should have kept one of your few defensive stars around while you had him. Number 3, the Roy Williams trade. There were 2 different NFL stars named Roy Williams in the 2000s. One of them was a 5-time Pro Bowl safety who fittingly played for the Cowboys from 2002 to 8. The other Roy Williams was a standout wide receiver for the Detroit Lions who had a 1,000-yard season in 2006. During the 2008 season, the Cowboys acquired this Roy Williams in a blockbuster trade along with a 7th-round pick for their 2009 first, 3rd, and 6th rounders. Now, the Cowboys had 2 different stars named Roy Williams, but Dallas's new prized wide receiver simply didn't pan out. He was quite the non-factor for the Cowboys in a disappointing 2008 season. In 2009, he had a mere 38 catches for 596 yards and 7 touchdowns. A year later, Williams only had 37 catches for 530 yards and 5 touchdowns. Luckily for Dallas, Detroit didn't make great use of the picks. It was one of those trades that totally failed for both parties. Number 2, keeping Jason Garrett for too long. The Cowboys fired Wade Phillips amid a lost 2010 season. Jason Garrett took over as the interim head coach, and he kept the job after leading Dallas to a 5-3 finish. What followed was 3 consecutive 8-8 non-playoff seasons. Mediocrity is never acceptable in today's NFL, especially for a big market team. But Jones remained devoted to Garrett for no real reason. The Cowboys broke through with a 12-win season in 2014, then a 4-12 record in 2015, then division titles in 2016 and 18, with a non-playoff 2017 season sandwiched in between. From 2010 to 18, the Cowboys only had 3 playoff appearances and 2 postseason wins under Garrett. He was being bailed out by smart assistant coaches around him, while Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott masked the many flaws of Garrett's team. The NFL world simply knows Garrett as the ultimate clapping machine, and not a great head coach. Jones had no problem dropping Super Bowl winning Hall of Fame head coaches, but he's kept Garrett for a decade despite not reaching a single NFC championship game with him. Absolutely amazing. And number 1, firing Jimmy Johnson. After serving as head coach of the Miami Hurricanes from 1984 to 88, Johnson was hired by Jones for his first NFL coaching gig in 1989. The Cowboys struggled in Johnson's first 2 years, but it didn't take him long to build up a dynasty for the ages. Johnson would take the Cowboys to the playoffs in the third year on the job. Finally, they reached another level in the 1992 season, defeating the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC Championship game to signal a changing of the guard. The Cowboys would go on to crush the Buffalo Bills in Super Bowl 27. Dallas successfully defended its Lombardi Trophy again the following year, defeating the Bills once again. But after the season, Johnson and Jones engaged in a heated power struggle. Jones seemingly believed he deserved more credit for the Super Bowl, and the rumors ramped up that Johnson would join the new Jacksonville Jaguars franchise. So the two men agreed to part ways after their second Super Bowl championship. Now, the Cowboys will go on to add a third Lombardi Trophy with Barry Switzer as head coach, but come on. This was Johnson's team. Dallas could have won that third Super Bowl and possibly more if he was still head coach. Firing Johnson led to Jones recycling through several new coaches over the years. Big-named hires like Bill Parcells and Wade Phillips didn't pan out as he hoped. What if Jones had kept Johnson this entire time? Who knows how much longer their dynasty could have lasted? Citing Johnson's disloyalty, Jones has refused to put the two-time Super Bowl winning coach in the Ring of Honor, even though Johnson is the man who crafted the Cowboys into a model organization during Jones' early years as Cowboys owner. What are some of the other terrible moves the Cowboys have made under Jerry Jones? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section down below. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.